The Plein Air Easton Podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation, enriching the lives of those on the Eastern Shore of Maryland through the arts. Visit avalonfoundation.org for details on events, performances, and educational programming offered throughout the year. Today's episode is sponsored by JFM Enterprises, providing distinctive ready-made and custom frames and moldings to the trade since 1974. Visit jfm.net to view their catalog of designs.
Hello, welcome everyone in the electronic world and in the physical world to the Plein Air Easton Podcast. My name is Tim Wigand, and I am here with
Marie Nuttall.
Hi, Marie.
Hi.
Welcome, everybody. For those of you in the building here, again, this is a live podcast. This is, Nick explained this yesterday. This is going out live, but then you can hear it later. And I got to say, yesterday's crowd was a little bit louder. They were a little more boisterous. Maybe it's because it's a Monday. The interior crowd is not that loud, but they're here. And
so if you hear some chatter in the background, that's just some people milling around looking at some art on the walls.
Right. It's like a big convention.
Yeah.
Like a convention hall in here. Although it feels absolutely nothing like a convention hall. It feels very, very nice. So we invite you to come down if you're listening in the area, anywhere close to Annapolis, Ocean City. Come up this week because, as I like to say, I think it's one of the great spots to be in America for art this week. And I'm going to pose that first question to our guest, Georganna Lenssen. We'll get into your background in a little bit, Georganna, but is this one of the best spots in the country to be for an art way, like in the United States? Would you say that?
This is absolutely the best venue to be in.
I mean, but in general, like, you could be in New York City, you could go find art, you could go, but where else, if there's a Lollapalooza or a Bonnaroo in terms of painting for this week in the country?
Oh, this is it. This is it.
How come?
Well,
Or
the
what do you think?
camaraderie between the painters, you tend to see some of the same painters throughout the events. The camaraderie, it's fun. The adrenaline of having to push yourself so hard and working under a timeline. I think there's a lot of value to working very slowly, and there's a lot of value to your immediate impact response to something. Easton has, water. It's got water, which is beautiful. It has countryside. It has so many things, interesting architecture, bridges. There's everything here.
Well, what about for a collector or someone who's new at painting? There's also got to be a good spot this week, right?
For a collector, there's fabulous art, and a lot of it. And for somebody just starting...
Like if you were going to go back to your time, when you were 8 or 9 or 7, or I don't know when you started painting, but like if you're young or if you're a teenager, you're just trying to like check it out or whatever, you kind of may like it, that sort of thing?
Oh, you can learn so much from, and the painters are really nice and approachable. You can learn so much just watching them, and it's fascinating to see something go from this big visual thing to this little crystallized vision of it. And each person's interpretation is so different that it's fascinating to see how different people take the same subject and they all produce something vastly different.
Sure.
Like
So if you're listening out there, come down. There's a lot of stuff. Again, one of the best places to be in the country. Now, Marie, I'm going to let you take it over, and we'll feature, talk about Georganna and however you want to take this away.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning. How did you know that you were called to be an artist? When did that start coming true for you?
That was sort of always a thing, and I was constantly drawing or making things or reading. I was very curious, so I would lose myself in stories, and I was always making things. And
From when? What was the first thing you made? You remember?
Oh, I don't know.
A poem?
No.
A sculpture?
Probably not. Yes, 2 rabbits. Snowflake and Bernard, after my stuffed animals, okay?
We asked the deep questions
You
here.
asked
We
a
asked
deep
the big
question.
questions.
And then when I was 8, I won the prize. I won a silver dollar for the best piggy bank.
Design?
Yes.
Was that ceramic
was it?
also?
No, it was crayon.
Okay.
It was crayon. New kind of piggy bank.
Nice.
It's virtual. Yep. Ahead of my time. And I've always been into it, but I've been interested in a whole lot of things, and chemistry and science and I think there's always everything adds to your artistic perspective, and I think the more things you're interested in and the more things that you are passionate about, the more you kind of have to say, the more you have to say with your work.
How would that manifest itself?
Well, so many different ways. When I was in art school, well, for one thing, I took a circuitous route. I went to art school, then I left and I got a regular degree because there was a strong amount of encouragement to do so. And I worked.
We talk about that all the time on here.
Yeah,
We ask that question all the time.
And I worked in mortgage banking and at TV Guide, and everything was just terrible. But I worked as a florist, and for 4 years, and I worked in this place that was in this old mill building, and she had cats walking around, and it was a big old barn kind of atmosphere, and it was absolutely wonderful because she just collected, like she took wildflowers and made these gorgeous things, and I went to horticulture school and got a certificate from the Barnes Foundation. I went to Longwood Gardens, and all that, because it's all textures, it's colors, it's information, it's learning your subject, because I do, it's
Right.
learning your subject. And then I went back to art school, back to the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and I was looking for something to kind of find a vein to be passionate about, and I saw the cover of a National Geographic, and there were these beautifully patterned dogs on the cover, and they're African wild dogs. And I didn't know, there are kind of two schools of thought to figure out why you're fascinated by something. I was totally fascinated, 200 to 300 sculptures of them. I did paintings, I did printmaking, just over. And I got a job at the I volunteered at the Philadelphia Zoo on the African Wild Dog Committee because I wanted to spend time with them, because my whole thing is familiarity with your subject breeds nuance, and nuance is married to essence.
Right.
And as I grew up around a lot of Asian art. I lived in Korea, my family did, and it's all about the essence of the subject, and I think that resonates deeply with me. So the African wild dogs I worked with, those two schools of thought are whether you should figure out why you are interested in this subject, because then you can accentuate it, or just follow your impulse, because it can become contrived if you know why you're interested. So I didn't know, and I just went full force. And then I wanted to add a little more of a psychological component to it, and I was trained as a figure painter. So
I can't wait to hear how these dogs come out at the very end.
you just wait. Patience.
I cannot wait here.
I know now because I had to give a talk a few years ago, so I had to put all this together. And it was really their feral quality, and a lot of it was the patterning, and I'm very much into mark making and textures, and those dogs, they're very thin and bony, and when they move together, they're also highly intelligent, and they're the most social group of dogs that you can find. I mean, socially advanced, that's the wrong word, but
Smart
evolved.
dogs.
yeah, well, the way they interact, their society is very well organized. I can't think of the word. So anyway, when
Is a female the leader or a male the leader?
female.
That's what
So when they run together,
As it should be.
as it should be, right. So when
I
they
was just
run
taking a
together, they
guess.
merge into almost one figure. It becomes this abstract thing, and you cannot see one dog from the, tell one dog from the other. So it becomes this abstract form with these spots and just color patterns, absolutely beautiful. And when I was at the zoo, we had false pregnancies, we had real pregnancies, and it was just a fascinating thing. And I was able to go there to the zoo on employee hours without the public, because I volunteered. So I got to see them without all the people around. And so eventually I wanted kind of a more psychologically, after like 3 years, psychologically challenging subject. So I've always been fascinated by people in captivity and animals in captivity, same thing. But my grandmother actually used to write to an armed robber, this great big guy. We saw a picture of him, so it kind of runs in the family here. And
He's like, stop. Wait, hold on.
We don't even have to talk about it. That's just really cool. I mean, like,
I thought
you
so
hear,
too.
well, they have television shows about stories like that. You know what I mean? You just don't meet a whole lot of people who actually do that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've always been fascinated by that, and so I thought I'd dip my toe in, then I got too scared, and then you start to lose your sense of danger.
Who was it? Was it bad
For-
Leroy Brown?
Very, very bad. I chose 4 people. Very, very bad, yeah. And some of them I wrote to them extensively. I'd visit them. I went to some of the court cases, and you kind of want to know.
How do you select them? Like, is there like a
It's-
program
it's sort
where
of
you
like a
can
supermarket.
like buddy up?
It's sort of like a supermarket, because you can go online and you can find these places to write to these people.
Oh, I had no
and
idea.
so, yeah, and you can find all kinds
What
of things.
is
on
a
the internet.
state-run thing? Is it the state?
No,
like,
it's not. It's run
by the inmates?
It's almost like a not Match.com.
Well, yeah,
It's
I mean,
not
yeah, let's
romantic.
call it
it's
what
not
it is.
romantic.
Let's
But
call
no,
it
no,
what
no,
it
no,
is.
no. But it's a pen
Some
pal
of them
thing.
do
It's a
end
pen,
up being
some,
romantic.
no. Some of them do. But that's part of the interest of the whole thing. And there's this book by Irving Goffman about asylum and its institutionalization, and it becomes about how they form their own way of dealing with authority and being told when to eat, when to go to sleep, when to do this. And it's also about the people, but it's also a visual thing. You wonder why they're like this, but you also, you're comparing one person to another, because there are 4 of them, and none of them know the others exist. And it's absolutely fascinating. And then all the tattoos, and you wonder why someone's like that. And of course you get a lot of lies, but you wonder why someone's like that, but the tattoos become stories in and of themselves, and oftentimes the tattoos, and become a departure for mark making. It's very interesting
sure.
with the marks.
Sure.
So that interested me too. And it's this whole thing about patterning. It's the same thing as the dogs and their feral quality. And I spent an extensive amount of time writing these people, and once you start getting into that world, you start meeting other people, and it kind of webs out. But when I got married, all of it had to stop, because they come out and they contact you. Or they contact you from prison because somehow they find your information. And one guy I would always antagonize people. I mean, not always, but especially one person. And, and then he contacted me, and he said he knew exactly where I lived. And I used a post office box, and he said he knew exactly how to find me. He was an Aryan. He was in charge of the second largest Aryan. So I would always antagonize him.
Did Grandma have these problems too?
No, Grandma didn't tell me about. No, I got more involved. I got more involved than Grandma. I took it a step further, because it just became this fascinating thing, but then it got too dangerous after like 14 years. And I actually did this retirement community, Penswood, wanted me to do a talk about it because they were fascinated by the prisoners.
Well, this going into this subject, so intensely, like, and for the psychological that you said, and the texture of the flowers, and you sort of like bring all that around. If I'm looking at a painting there, I see a boat, and there's a boat behind me in a field, and some lumber on a trailer. Would you say that like your paintings, because I guess I'll call them abstract for those who don't know Georganna's work, would you say that you're so into it that it becomes an abstract thing that comes out?
No, I don't think that. I think that I'm looking for something a little more universal than site-specific. But if I'm painting a person, and for those people, it was about their essence. If I'm painting a site, I'm looking, or an object, I'm looking at the object as a point of departure, and what can I do to that? What can I do to that to evoke some kind of response from the viewer, or to encourage interaction with the painting?
Can I ask about the Prisoner Project? So the Prisoner Project and the Wild Dog Project, like, where is the stopping point for you? I mean, you're doing this for the exploration of trying to find out why you're drawn to it? Is that?
I'm doing it just because I'm very curious. I started with a betta fish, and I ended up with 4 saltwater tanks, right? I'm like that about everything. And it's, dive right in. And
But
well,
do you
I
get
wanted
to the point
paint
where
them.
you're
I wanted
like,
to paint them.
Oh, okay.
No, it got too dangerous. No, the African wild dogs I actually went back to and worked with probably 5 years ago. No, I still love them. I still can go back to them because it's such an intense subject for me. The
You're
prisoners.
not just like, I figured this out. I'm good. I'm filled up on this subject.
And the
Okay.
prisoners are just. It's too dangerous. That whole world is too.
So you stopped doing that now?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
I still paint
Your
people.
husband probably put an end to that, I would imagine.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. And he was smart. So, But it wasn't about the sensationalism. It was about, the whole, how they, everything they do, and even the prisoner shanks, it's like each one of them has a life of its own. It's meant to do a particular thing. I studied African art pretty intensely, and
Oh, okay.
they have this whole philosophy about secrecy and the art of containment and the art of what people choose to reveal versus keep secret. And they basically say if you have a secret, keep it in your kneecap, not in your head, because then people won't know where to look for it, right? So it's this whole thing. It's when you go to a chieftain's house, it's not all the big scary masks on the wall. It's that he has 3 sacred seeds buried underneath the foundation post. So this all leads into the thing about the power of not knowing. And a secret's only a secret as long as you have a secret, and once you give it away, no longer powerful.
Right.
And so when I teach, and when I tell students when they're using text in their writing, don't let people know what it says. I mean, make it marks, because once they find out what it says, that's it. Then they'll move on to something else. Attention spans are very short.
Yeah, kind of loses the magic.
Well,
It loses the
it's bigger than
intrigue.
that.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you're
Yeah.
saying, once they figure it out, well, then you can have, well,
And when I painted the prisoners, I didn't paint them in any kind of gory way or anything like
what if
that.
it's just beautiful and you go back to it, and that's why they go back to it?
That's why who goes back
Like,
to it?
well, you say, well, once they figured it out, it's kind of lost its magic, but the beauty of it may actually, like,
Yes, but if they're using text, it's a little bit of a different thing.
oh, yeah, like you're talking about,
text,
like, found
like
found
words.
object
No,
art.
words.
You mean
like
you're writing prose? You're
writing prose? Yes.
Okay,
yes.
gosh, yeah.
I think it should be more of a mark making.
But you say that, the reason, because I went back through your stuff, and we're going to take a break here in a second, but I went, and actually, you're the first person I've ever done this to. I don't know why. Is I went through your Instagram feed, and then today, before we came on, I actually went to your web page, and I saw a couple of your videos and stuff like that. You use you talk about making marks on your paintings as well. You say that.
It's like calligraphy.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, 'cause
Sure, well,
in terms of your abstract stuff. And it's not called abstract, right? Or am I wrong? I
It's
know that
abstract representation.
abstract
Yeah.
representation
It's
of
not
abstract.
totally abstract.
Gotcha.
And,
Okay.
I mean, I do some abstract, but I
There's
always
some
base
beautiful stuff on there.
Thanks.
Man. That red apple or box or whatever it is, the first one that's on your Instagram right now. I don't know what that is. It's really, really.
Thank you. I'm not sure what it is.
It's
either,
really,
but thank you.
really good.
So, I grew up around all the Asian art, the Korean art, because my mother collected a lot of it when we lived in Korea. It's all about the calligraphy and the pen and ink drawings and the whole visual language of mark making and what you can do with it. So, I look at things and I try to see them as marks, and how would I translate that? And I constantly think when I listen to music, different kinds of music, how would I translate that into marks? The different,
Gotcha.
staccato, whatever it is, how would I translate that into marks?
That's fascinating.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with more. This is the Plein Air Easton Podcast. Again, we've got lunch served here by Ivy Cafe. You can come in if you listen to this week through, I think, Saturday probably. We'll be down here. But we're doing podcasts and some panel discussions. Today we are talking with Georganna Lenssen. Georganna will be, thank you very much. We'll be back just in 1 second. Thank you.
my radio's over there. I haven't touched
You know what
mine.
you're going to do? You know where we're going? On this?
Yeah, I would like to.
Hi, welcome back, everyone, to the Plein Air Easton Podcast here in the Armory in downtown Easton, Maryland. We are here for the Plein Air Festival this week, going on through the 24th of July. If you are in the listening area, you're close. There's no rule. If you live close and you're listening to this, come down, please. It's a great week to be in Easton for if you're an art lover in any sort of fashion.
Yes, we have an exhibit all week at 40 South Harrison Street, which is our headquarters. So we're open every day except for Thursday this week.
But just come down. We'll let you in anyway. Just
come on in.
Come
See
in.
some. The art is arriving every day.
Yeah, it's starting to fill up, and it changes every day, which is really neat. You can come back again and again. And we're doing these podcasts and panel discussions, and I want to get right back into it with Georganna Lenssen. Marie, I think you had some questions. Georganna, first, again, thank you for coming. Where you live in Pennsylvania?
Yes, Honeybrook.
Honeybrook, so not too far away. Were you glad to come back here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a wonderful host I stay with every year, so yeah.
Awesome, good.
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about how your career or your artwork segued into plein air. Like
very
what was
abruptly. Very abruptly.
Okay, tell us about that.
I always like to. I feel like I grow much more. I always like to put myself in uncomfortable situations, or surprise myself, or do something to kind of shake things up. So I stay. So I stay sharp and I stay involved. And so I was strictly a studio painter, and I thought, well, why don't I apply to a plein air thing, a plein air event? So I applied to Wayne, and I happened to get in, and I didn't know how to plein air paint. I just put in 4 paintings because there was nothing in the instructions saying they had to be plein air. So I got in. So my German Shepherd and I took a trip, our very first road trip, and I'd read an article by a writer a long time ago who said that when he gets writer's block, he goes to a town he's never been to, a bar he's never been to, and orders a drink he's never drunk, and he writes. And so I thought, that sounds fabulous. So Gringo and I went to Cape Cod and went there and just started trying to figure things out. And there was a lot of trying to figure it out very intensely because the event approached. And then when the event came, it was probably the most, it always happens this way with plein air, the most stressful thing. My German Shepherd got kicked out of daycare for barking, so I had to take him everywhere in the summer with me, and the air conditioner on, the car on, he's barking the entire time because that's what he does. And I had to jury a show in New Hope, and I came back. I actually cracked 3 teeth. I was so tense. And then even for like Quick Draw, there were so many things that happened that week, but with Quick Draw, I was going to Quick Draw, and I thought, I only have 2 hours. And then I found this catbird, and saw this catbird in the middle of the highway, so I had to turn around, stop traffic, get the catbird. The catbird was frozen, so I figured I'll just put him in the car. Of course, my German Shepherd's there too. Well, then the catbird decides to start flying around the car, so I have to pull over again. I have to find a box for him, and I have to catch him. And my dog is like, what is going on here? Can I catch that bird, please? So I finally get him in a box, and then during the whole Quick Draw, because I had to rush there at that point, I had to keep the bird with me and make sure I had opening and closing the box so he had air. And on and on. So the whole event actually turned out well. I got 3rd place. And I think that judge was probably, saw a seed of something good that probably needed to be refined. But the catbird flew away. It was all a false alarm. And
So he was all well and good? You
he was well and good.
to
I
the
nursed
point
him,
where
yes, he was well and good. He went away. And so I kind of was drawn in so much by it because it put me in such an uncomfortable place, and then it was so exciting.
What was the drink you had? What was the drink you had?
Did you have a drink?
The drink
like
you never had before. What was that one?
Like the writer? Did you have a drink?
I didn't do it. I wasn't on a block, so I didn't know. I stick to wine.
All right.
So it just was so exciting. It was so much different than being in a studio, being outside and observing things directly and trying to organize this mass of things. And so it just kind of became addictive. And I think it energizes anybody's work. I think people should actually
How,
draw.
how, in what way would you say so?
What way?
Yeah, how does
Oh,
that-
direct observation, because you can see how light affects an object. There's a place I go, which is a limestone quarry, because I think there's a benefit to the immediate response to something, but I think it's a really nice counterbalance to go to the same place over and over and over. So I go to this lime quarry, and everything is white, and the white powders everywhere from the lime, and I do go into the buildings and up on the ladders, and the way the sun hits it in different times or during the snow, it's the whites become so colorful and beautiful, and you would never know. You develop an other consciousness about a subject the more you work with it, and I think it becomes something different to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And other conscience.
Other consciousness about it, yeah. Cy Twombly talked about that, I think when he had a place in Greece, and he would always be looking out on the ocean, and the more you see it and the more you absorb that, it just becomes a different thing from, you can separate the light, you can separate things from it, yeah.
This kind of sensation.
Yeah.
It's a sensation sort of thing. Is that correct? Or do you see it that way every time? Like every time, it's like, okay, I'm always seeing something different here now. Or does it come in like sort of?
I think it's a more quiet thing. You just go there and you watch.
See what happens.
And you paint.
Yeah.
Nothing really happens. You just are, sometimes there's something to being quiet and just, I'm not looking for something exciting.
Is it kind of like,
I'm just looking, I'm hoping they don't come and arrest me.
Right, yeah, right.
Is it kind of like, a runner will say runner's high, like they get to a certain point? Is that kind of like an artist feeling? Does it kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, that comes just from painting. That comes
Okay.
just from painting. But this is something if you don't spend enough time with a subject, you miss out on a whole lot of subtleties. That's all.
Got
I
it.
think.
Got it. What is your biggest challenge now that you're working with right now? What are you kind of like pushing yourself to do that is really challenging you?
Well, I'm always trying to challenge myself, so I work in every medium, and I do clay, and I always, with my subjects, I'll make models. Like if I'm painting flags, I'll make flags, and I'll paint them and put them together different ways. So it can remove it one step from reality.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been fascinated by the whole concept of windows and how windows tell a story. So when you're looking at a skyscraper or a big building, blue light might suggest somebody's watching TV, or a warm light might mean they're in their room. So it's this whole storytelling idea about what's in windows.
Yeah, that's really cool.
How do you, go ahead, Marie, go ahead.
I was just going to say, because I was like, oh yeah, I get it, because windows, I love like walking through historic towns, and when they have those like floor to ceiling windows, or you know what I mean, like the lights are on, it's like,
I love looking in there. I know.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't have to see anything.
No,
but
I don't either. I don't have to see any people, but I like to tell
I
a
like to
story
see
in my
people
head
too,
about
but I
what's
do too.
going
I do
inside.
too. I do too. I do too.
I get that.
Just going around looking in people's windows?
Yeah, exactly.
Peeping Marie.
Where my studio is, it's this.
No, I'm like peeking through people's windows, but if you're walking down the street, like Main Street, Annapolis, there's all those historical brownstones and townhouses,
Sure,
and they're
yeah.
like, here's my open window, and here's my dining room, and my grand floral. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
of course. Yeah,
they
yeah.
know people are looking at their windows.
So you're
the
looking at
sidewalk's
one,
right in front of their house.
You're looking at one little thing, but it can become so much more.
Your
Right.
secret's safe with me. Your secret's safe with me. It's okay.
I'm not creeper. I'm not a creeper.
So, how, when getting back to your sort of abstract representation, this is one of the things I thought was, okay, I've asked people, how do they know when that picture of that boat's done? In abstract, is there any difference in your answer from anybody else? You just know? Is that it?
Oh, I never know. No, but the best advice I got was to stop right before I think I'm finished.
Uh-huh.
Because it's that little bit of thing that's not perfection that keeps it interesting.
Right.
That was the best advice. I've just been flying with that. But I don't know. I always overwork things a lot of times.
Well, go ahead, Marie. You have
I was
something?
going to say,
Because you mess around with you're a little abs. You do a lot with markings and shapes and stuff like that. You like that kind of stuff. That
That
sort of
kind
thing
of
you
stuff.
made? Whatever it is. I mean, that's that wonderful art.
I was going to ask how, if any of the different styles, like the plein air style, like how it influenced your entire body of work, like
did it?
or did it at all?
It did, because you're dealing with so much with nature, but it also became a big challenge for me to maintain my aesthetic while I'm around many people who are very realistic.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a challenge, but a big challenge. But of course, it influences. I mean, you can't help but have it not influence you, because you're bringing in the wind, the rain, the sun. You're bringing everything through
bugs.
yourself. The bugs, yeah, the birds, and all that's getting filtered into your work.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Again, I think back to this sort of the abstractness of it. It's just really is, and I was talking about the spacing, the way you, because I looked at the page, oh wow, there's this form over here that perfectly balances this going this way, and it just seems like, I guess, trying in the minutia to get that exactly the way you wanted, just the randomness of some of it.
Oh, you know what? I'm a very chaotic person, and when I was in school, I was told not to fight my disposition. So I have just an ordered chaos. I just try to order it somehow, and
Was that kind of like a good thing to hear?
yes, oh, totally. And
Nice.
I'm a bits and pieces person. So you just have to go with, I think your bent.
I hope it was said to you lovingly,
Oh,
because
yes, absolutely.
as a child, that could be
Oh,
something. That
this
could
wasn't
be
as
like,
a child.
"Whoa."
This was
okay.
this was a critic, and yeah, you have to use your whatever bent you have to your advantage, and so I work very intuitively in my works. I just try to order them as it's different. Studio is so different too, because it's so many different layers. I use so many layers, and plein air, you don't really have the opportunity to do that.
Exactly.
Is plein air painting hard? I mean, it's hard for everybody, I guess.
It's hard for everybody.
But is it, in your case, when you talk about layers and that sort of thing, I mean, you've sold here, right? You've sold pretty well here, correct? Yeah, so
Yes.
they're abstract.
Especially when she was painting Smith Island cakes.
Yeah, no.
We kept saying more cake, more cake.
Sticky and sweet or whatever
Sticky
it is.
sweet.
Sticky
Sticky
sweet.
sweet.
There you go.
So when I was doing Sticky Sweet, I would make models of cakes sometimes I would take them from the bakery, sometimes I would make them out of cardboard. And I'd spray paint them, but it's really to take materials that aren't supposed to be doing one thing and seeing how they interact with each other, so that you kind of absorb that in your senses, and you kind of absorb that, and you can kind of transmute that into the canvas.
Yep.
It's a different sensation from just cake.
But what was really beautiful about the story, and you could tell this to Marie, because I listened to it on that video, which is, there's a picture of her blowing out, I guess, her 3rd or 4th-year-old birthday cake. And it's, so you can tell her, I mean, how you got
I've had
it.
a lifelong love affair with cake.
The
So much to
sculpting of the
love.
icing, you were talking about that sort of stuff. Like,
yeah.
it had to impress you. It's like,
And
that picture works really well for your story.
There's always, I think, a continuum with artists, and with the cakes, the sprinkles, the colors, the candles, and that sculpting of the icing. It all was this textural, beautiful thing, and I think that made a big impression on me.
Yeah. You definitely get that when it's a really good intro for your show that you did. How'd that show do? When was that show? The Sticky Sweet.
It was in May.
How did it go?
I mean, not May. It was in March. Well, it was in a museum gallery venue, and it went really well. There were not many sales, but afterwards there were. So
Right. Yeah.
most of the pieces went anyway. It just wasn't that kind of a venue, but I knew that from the beginning.
Well, yeah. Well, you're looking. Well, because there's going to be the conversation, because you call it what it is. Okay, should we buy that? Yes, it's whatever it is. But and then somebody's going to say inevitably in the conversation, "But honey, it's a piece of cake." Somebody's. You're gonna. So you can see where that discussion would go. I mean,
But then Honey says, "But honey, it's a piece of cake."
I like
Yeah,
it. Exactly.
exactly.
And then like 2 weeks
It's
later,
kitchen art.
2 weeks later they buy the painting. So that's why I mean that's just my hypothesis to why they went
Well,
later.
I think too, you have to realize it's depending on who your audience is. It's about transcending the subject matter and making it about the paint for me.
Okay.
Oh, it totally is. It totally is. I'm just in any conversation in that sort. It's not just. I mean, anyway, if I made it seem like this is just a piece of cake.
No,
that
no,
you
no, no,
painted,
you didn't. It's fine. It's totally fine.
Like they are gorgeous, interesting, probably lifelong pursuits to buy because you will continue to find something new. That's what I love about abstract representation. Is like I always look for something new in a painting when I see it. I mean, that's that's how it kind of keeps me going, and I always find them in your paintings, and stuff abstract representation work. I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that before. I've been looking at this painting for 4 years. That kind of stuff that's in there. You know what I mean?
That's cool.
I really like that.
What is your biggest triumph in your career so far? Because we know there'll be more.
I don't think about it in terms of triumphs. I really can't. I don't think about it in terms like that. It's just this
All
thing
right.
I do. Yeah.
That's good. All right, so we're going to do...
How about like your biggest, like in Georganna speak, like your biggest challenge or your
Probably the most thrilling thing I did was go to Scotland and paint. I've painted many different places, but that was probably the one that I went there every year for a while, visiting people, and that was probably the most thrilling and exciting. I painted many places, but that was pretty exceptional.
Was it amazing?
Yeah.
Did you have a show after that, or
No, I kept all the pieces.
Did
I
you?
have all the pieces. I didn't show them. I wanted. It was too personal of a thing.
Sure.
And the people I visited, we connected because of a painting of oranges in a bowl. And they
Oh.
contacted me, and they had this long story about a cat they rescued that would knock the oranges out of the bowl.
And you were like, "That's it, I'm done."
No, I love cats.
I know.
No,
I know.
okay.
You were like, "I'm flying over."
Yeah. So we developed this long relationship, and I made a painting for them, and I flew over there. And so she got cancer, and she's dying. So I keep my paintings because it's special. That's all. Yeah.
Oh.
I was
See, and
actu-
that's like the great connections that are made, you
Yep.
know,
Yep.
through.
Well, that's what you started talking about, like when we come all the way around
yeah,
the beginning, the relationships and that kind of stuff. It's great to have a festival like this for painters to be able to do that, artists to be able to do that at.
And
I
she was
think.
talking about her host, that's a
Yeah.
connection too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking, Georganna, that when I going through your paintings and works of art, that I was like, man, I should have this woman do my portrait, because I saw a portrait in there as well. I mean,
I'm a figure painter.
I was like, it would be really, really, really cool to have her do my portrait. Marie, you got any rapid fire questions? Because I want to do some rapid fire with you. You got to have a couple in your head. We can do rapid fire goes like this. This is our rapid fire. So we're going to get that set up. But Georganna, just think of those, Marie, for a second.
Okay.
Or write them down. You're in Pennsylvania. Do you show? Where do people find your art? Where can they see your stuff?
In Lancaster, Karen Ander Fine Art, and I have several galleries. And they're New Hope.
New Hope,
I work through
Lancaster.
I work through some designers,
Uh-huh.
and they sell a lot of my
Anything
work.
in Altoona? Anything in Altoona?
No.
Nothing in Altoona?
And Eureka Springs. I mean, just some odd places.
Right.
But right now I'm
And then
moving-
online, Georganna Lenssen, Lennson.
No.
SS.
SS. Yeah, well, hey, come on now.
SSEN, yes.
Right, the SS on Georganna Lenssen. Really check out her Instagram page. Her webpage is also fantastic, and you even get to know more about her because she has a couple paragraphs there at the beginning of that. It's been really great talking to you. I think we're
Thank
going to
you.
try rapid fire now, Marie. Ready for some
Okay.
rapid fire?
Okay.
Rapid fire.
So just off the top of
say
my
the
head,
answer.
skydive or scuba dive?
Scuba dive.
Have you been?
Once.
Okay.
I don't have a license, so I'm not supposed to be scuba diving.
Gotcha. Morning or evening?
Oh, evening. Owl. Total owl.
What's your favorite sandwich?
Cheese.
Cheese sandwich.
Cheese and
Your
tomato.
favorite- your-
Tomato.
Grilled or
Oh, I love grilled cheese and tomato. Yeah, that's it.
And your favorite color?
Blue.
Okay.
ice cream or gelato?
Ice cream.
Broadway or
Netflix.
All right, I think I got shut off on that one. I think
Yeah.
I caught there. All righty. Listen, Georganna, thank you for coming by. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay, thank
Do you have
you.
anything else? You got a word of advice as we go to anyone, painter?
Oh, paint what you like, not what you think people want.
Well
That's what I
said,
would
and
say.
perfect ending to this podcast,
Beautiful.
Plein Air
Love
Easton
it.
Podcast. Marie, thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
Marie's, if you need anything at Plein Air Easton Festival, you come here. Anything at all, anybody, just ask Marie. She knows what the whole thing is. Thanks for listening. We'll see you here. We'll be with you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.